So there have been a lot of announcements around layoffs in the last few days. We had Microsoft announcing 1,000 employees are going to be laid off. Obviously, that's a small percentage of their 221,000 employees. But still, when you hear about a very established company, you know, one of the 10 largest companies in the world talking about laying off people, it definitely perks people's ears up and it has them worry more about the state of the economy. You have Elon, who said that he wants to cut 75% of people at Twitter. Stripe, it's so fascinating. Stripe, they're not doing layoffs. It's not called layoffs. It's what's known as backdoor layoffs, where basically they're requiring their managers to do a rating system of they have to answer a question: would you hire this direct report if you knew what you knew today? And you could answer yes, definitively yes, not sure, or definitely not. And they're required to make 10 to 15% of their answers not sure or definitively not. So basically, they're forcing managers to get employees to be given PIPs or, you know, being fired for cause. And a layoff is technically where you're, you know, kind of getting rid of people not for performance, but based on market conditions. Given all of this, how do you guys think about layoffs? And more specifically, what does a good layoff look like versus a bad layoff? I know you've had experience with this, Sophia. So what are your thoughts?
I've had so much experience with it. I mean, just responding to what you said about a reorg being shrouded in an, you know, it is, people call it reorgs, people call it layoffs, people call it, there's like so many different ways of packaging it that is pretty much a layoff. And if somebody's telling managers to cut 15% of their team, that are the low performers, those people probably shouldn't have jobs there anyways. I think it means the company's bloated. Firing for people for cause is a lot harder than laying people off. I know a lot of companies that instead of ever firing anyone, they eliminate the position. When you eliminate a position, you can't rehire into it because obviously you'd be lying and saying that you're just kind of getting rid of this one person and replacing them. As an employer, you're much more protected laying people off. Layoffs are should be very planned. It's something, and you guys can, I think, speak to this just about probably scenario planning and the ways that companies, you know, think about layoffs, hopefully far enough in advance. I know that a lot of founders are like, well, if we lay people off, can we function? Will we be able to get to the next phase where we can raise money? Is it just going to put us in a standstill? So there's a lot of different kind of like, if I do this, will this still work? I have laid off, I don't know. I haven't personally laid off as many people as my companies have laid off. I think over time, my businesses have laid off 300 people. And that is one of the most challenging things. When you plan for reductions, layoffs, or a reorg, you want to be transparent with people. And it can be very selfish as an employer to, you know, when people know that maybe the company's not performing, or even worse, you're not telling them that it's not performing, but they get whiffs of it. People ask, are there going to be layoffs? People aren't stupid. And if you don't treat them like adults and say, this is where the company is, and this is what we got right at Girl Boss, which we didn't get right at Nasty Gal, was saying, hey, this is where the company's finances are. So I had sold Girl Boss at the end of 2019. COVID hit. We were somewhat of a media company, really largely based in events and brand partnerships. Brands pulled their dollars, as you know. Events were really hard to do. And so the second time around, we said, listen, like, this is where we are. If we can't get this amount of revenue in the door by this date, this is what's going to happen. And giving people the opportunity to look for other jobs or scenario plan for themselves and protect themselves. It was a very like loving, transparent thing with very specific deadlines around if this, then that. And
so you told employees, like, if we do not hit X revenue target by Y date, we will have to let people go.
Yes. Like, this is how a business runs. It won't be responsible for us to retain staff. Our greater responsibility is to protect the business and the business's longevity. You know, this is something that everybody should understand, even about their personal finances. And people thanked us. Like, would we had to make layoffs, I got thank you emails, and there's just like nothing better than having to make a decision that hard, having your team understand the entire context and appreciate the graceful, dismount that you are able to give everybody with a sense of dignity. People just want dignity. And if you treat them like a human resource, that's when they sue you. That's when they come back and say, I wasn't treated like a human. Like, your company has money, I'm going to try to take it from you. And I've had that happen as well. And that is real hard.
And what are the most important things not to do based on your experience with layoffs at Nasty Gal, which went, let's call it, less smoothly than at Girl Boss?
I think at Nasty Gal, it felt very clinical. We were just, the typical kind of corporate layoff is people just, it's just like heads start rolling. People are sitting there, the first layoff happens, somebody talks about it, everybody's like shivering in their seats, wondering if they're going to be called next. HR is sitting in a room supervising the conversation with the manager, with a little folio, with a piece of paper that is the, termination agreement that says we're going to pay you to go away and sign this so you can't sue us, which people often do anyways. And you're not supposed to apologize. Rarely is there even a thank you. It might be like a thank you for your service. You're supposed to keep it brief, not answer really any questions. And people will squirm and talk for a long time. At a certain point, you have to say, like, this is happening. If you have any other questions, whatever, you do have to end it at some point. And ideally it's done in person. There was one time where we did have to call someone and let them know, which is always really hard. And then, it's just there's so many wrong ways of doing it.
I think it starts as entrepreneurs, when you talk to someone who's going to start a company, they're like, I have an idea and this is what I want to do. And I have a market. And I mean, I'm sure all of us were like that. Okay, I have a cool idea. I have a market. And I try my best early on with entrepreneurs to say, but are you passionate about people and leadership? Because you guys know, and I know, that pretty much within 5 or 10 people working for you, more of your job is about people and about leadership than it is about the idea and about the market. It's about all of them, of course, but I think before you have a company, that's all you think about. And then very quickly, running the company becomes about people and leadership. So I think that's just like an important reframe for anyone who's starting a company or going to run one.
I want us to roll the tape. This has become like an infamously bad layoff. I want us to roll it, and then I want us to talk about kind of lessons from this video and some rules of thumb for entrepreneurs who may or may not have to broach these types of conversations over the next year or so. So let's roll the tape.
Sure.
If you're on this call, you are part of the unlucky group being laid off. Your employment here is terminated effective immediately. It's been a really, really challenging decision to make. This is the second time in my career I'm doing this, and I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried. This time I hope to be stronger.
Jesus.
I've now watched this like 4 times in prepping for this episode. That one line of I cried last time I did this, and I hope to be stronger is going to go down in the history books.